Hello, folks. This is Santosh Shiva. Welcome to another episode of RunYogi Diaries. In this show, I bring you conversations with people on a journey of fitness and well being. I hope they spark a new possibility for you, provide some tips, and perhaps some inspiration to perspire. My guest today is a good friend, Anil Adoni, someone who's been on a journey of fitness, well being, and sustainable weight loss through fundamental changes in lifestyle. We get to talk about what was that wake up moment that got him to start his journey of trial and error approach to weight loss that led to creating his own system, his pivot into running and long distance bicycling, and finally his adventures in trekking in the Himalayas and the Kilimanjaro mountains. Let's dig in. To get your latest updates on these amazing stories, please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and leave your comments below. Love to hear back from you.
Hi Anil, welcome to RunYogi Diaries.
Thank you, Santosh. Thanks for calling me and setting this up.
Oh, absolutely. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Yeah, you have such a fascinating story of well-being, health, and great lifestyle. I'm looking forward to this conversation. People can learn a lot from what you've been doing over the years. So love to get into that. Before that, I want to hand it back to you and have you do a quick personal introduction, and then we'll jump in.
Okay. Well, my name is Anil Adoni, and I'm a businessman, and I've been here in the US for the last 20 years. And I've been working from home also for the last 20 years. A lot of people are getting used to working from home, but I've been doing it 20 years. So it's not a big change for me.
Yeah.
That's who I am.
Awesome. Same thing with me. I've been working from home for a long time, and I agree with you. So not a big change from that perspective. That's good. So what I thought we can do is we can get started with your backstory. What got you prompted? What got you started?
What got me started on weight loss? Well, it's something as simple as a doctor's visit, right? So you go to the doctor, and every time they're checking your weight, every time you go in, the first thing they do is check your weight and your blood pressure and your oxygen level. I'm thinking there must be some significance to all this checking. And I was just hitting the edge of being 200 pounds. So that number somehow was very scary to me. I was always less than that. And the moment I crossed 200, and that was the first time that I started noticing that I'm increasing in weight consistently and it's not going down. And then, of course, this doctor starts talking about, hey, I think your blood pressure is going up consistently. You're on the borderline of sugar. You're on the borderline of BP. So all these too many borderlines, and everything has to do somehow with weight, according to them. So I said, you know what? That's probably something I want to start controlling because I don't want to be medicated. I saw my dad who had diabetes, who had to take injections every day, and heart conditions, and I just didn't want to go that route. And of course, my pant waist size is going on increasing. It's just not fun.
Yeah.
You always get custom tailored clothing because you're fat. I am fat, not you. So that kind of didn't go with it at all. Every time it used to be a struggle. That was what got me started on the whole journey of thinking about weight loss. And after that, it took me a lot of years to start deciphering how exactly to do it and different trials and failures and small success stories. And then smaller success stories led to bigger success stories. So then I came up with my own system for the whole thing.
So when was this? How many years? What year was this when you got this moment of realization?
Yeah, realization was sometime close to about 12 to 15 years ago.
So 10 years back or 12 years back, you had this realization. And what about your growing up years? Were you someone who was very active in sports, in general, a healthy lifestyle, or give us a sense of what your growing up years were like?
I was always, if you see my, as a teenager, I was always lean and slim. I was never fat. So that never was that. And when I joined college, okay, during my teenage years, I always used to work out. I always used to go to the gym or do something with my friends, like not very active, but I used to like kind of like to run a little, but and go to the gym more so because my big fan was Arnold Schwarzenegger and said I want to be like him someday. But then
Okay.
that was just a fancy thing that I always kept working out. But when I joined college is when I started realizing that I'm becoming big in size because I was starting to put on weight. Even in college is still okay because I think my metabolism in the 20s was a lot greater.
Okay.
Sorry to jump into technical terms, but that was a lot greater then than now. Even in college, I did work out consistently at still the gym, but did not have a lot of aerobic activity.
Hmm. Okay.
That's and I continued working out even for the past 20 years. I've still been working out at the gym. I've been a member in 24-hour fitness for 20 years, except last year.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Got it. So, and then life takes over and get busy with family, work, and then I guess you got to a point where, um, it hit you, I guess, right? That there's got to be something you want to do at this point, right?
Correct. I think even though I was working out consistently, regularly in the gym, even for the past 30 years, I can say, but still life catches on even then. There's still some imbalance in the whole process. Even if I put on like, 1 pound every 3 months, it's still on an upward graph. The graph is still going up. It's not coming down. And I'm not getting any younger. So if you look at the graph up there, the graph is going slowly up, but your metabolism is dropping. So in a way, it accelerates at some point of time. And that acceleration point, I think, is so rapid that you don't realize if you don't get into a lifestyle changing some habits.
Yeah. And how old were you when you kind of woke up to this?
Well, I'm 52 now. When I woke up to this whole process, I was like, 38, close to getting 40. I think when you cross
Mm.
40, everyone tells you, you're going to see a doctor more, and I'm always laughing about it. I was till I actually started seeing him more.
Makes sense. So fast forward, you created you said you figured out a lot of stuff through hit and miss, repetitive research and trial and error, and then you've come up with this a framework or a system that seems to be working for you. Let's hear about that. What talk to us about what you've learned.
Let me give you a little short history about what didn't work first, then I'll come down to what worked. A lot of people try to get into what works for everybody else, and then they realize that it's not working for me, right? If you start, you don't even have to Google it. All you got to do is ask in some social gathering, how do you lose weight? Everybody is going to give you some advice how to lose weight. Unfortunately, the people who are giving you advice have not lost it anyway. The first thing I did is I changed my doctor because my doctor was telling me to lose weight and he was on the heavier side. I'm thinking maybe he's not the right guy to be advising me about weight loss because I'm not going to listen to somebody who's already not doing it himself. So you have to, I started to pick the role model. My doctor has to be first lean before he tells me some advice. Similar process I follow in my business. Don't ask a guy who's not a businessman how to do business or what to do in a situation because he's just stating out of knowledge and not necessarily experience,
Hmm.
right? So what didn't work for me was following binge dieting processes where people just pick some kind of diet. South Beach diet, it was big
Hmm.
in the 10, 15 years ago. Well, I tried most of them. They do work for the short period of time that we're doing it, but then they stop working when you go back into your regular course of your regular meal. We
Right.
come from India and we have our own foods that we grew up with. You can't just put all that aside, which we grew up with for 35 years or 30 years when I woke up to it, 38 years, and then suddenly say, oh, I'm going to eat muffins, or I'm going to eat brown bread for from now on, or I'm going to do exactly eat quinoa forever, because they're not sustainable. So you go through so many of these different patterns and you start craving for our foods. So that's what didn't work. Following somebody else's diet plans. I could get that the exercise is consistent. I got the exercise part. I can always increase and decrease. Even I have something to say on that later. But the foods part was the toughest to understand because what am I really doing that's really not working? Monday to Friday, I can probably sustain myself perfectly. What happens on the weekend? There goes everything I did in the whole week. Monday to Friday, I lost like 1 pound, and Saturday, 1.5 pounds came back. What happened? Understanding that was the most difficult part. So then I created a system, this whole thing. I said, okay, what are the most important things that I can do to start to track the weight loss? First thing is, I think people should give up this fancy idea that I want to lose. If you listen to my blog right now, I'm talking, I say, hey, I lost 35 pounds and I kept it off. Forget that idea that you want to lose 35 pounds. Start with 1 pound. How do you lose 1 pound and keep it off consistently for a week, 2 weeks? If you manage to keep that 1 pound off and struggle with keeping that pound off even for a month, you actually lost a pound. That's when I can say you started and got the idea of how to keep that 1 pound off. Then go for another pound. That's as simple as my concept. It's simple that whatever you lose, keep it off. I don't care if it's half a pound a week or half a pound in 2 months. Can you keep that off consistently? If I struggle with keeping that 1 pound off consistently for more than a month, then I've actually started thinking about everything I'm eating, everything I'm doing, everything, my activities. I've actually analyzed all these things to keep that pound off. Once I get that down, I think consistently starting to drop becomes easier because now I know what really works to keep that 1 pound off. To get that took me like 3 or 4 years because I'm always in a yo-yo. You go up, you come down, you go up, you come down. When do you start losing and keeping it constant?
Yeah.
So the first thing, let me know whenever you have want me to break and have another question because I'll keep going otherwise.
No, I do. I do want to add. I want to add to what you're saying. So no, that makes a lot of sense because also I have seen as a runner, we tend to experience weight fluctuation quite a bit, and a lot of it's because of hydration also, right? And I have lost 4 pounds just because loss of water. And to your point, that which is a very very valid point, you want to look at the real weight loss, which is the loss of possibly fat in your body, which is different from losing water in the body. And you can lose 2 3 pounds just losing water, but that's not real weight loss from a health point of view. And so I just thought
True.
I'll add to what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense because what you're looking at is real weight loss that reflects improvement in overall health and fitness, right? So
Yes, what you said is absolutely right. Yeah. My presentation that I gave on weight loss is basically termed fat loss because I lost the concept of weight loss over a period of time because basically what you're trying to lose is fat, not weight. As I progressed down this journey, I learned that it's actually fat you're trying to lose and not weight because you don't want to lose muscle mass. It gets a little more complex a little later, but to just start with, say, I want to reduce my weight. It's a good
yeah,
start, fat loss. So my most key, the factor I said is, see, I'm a businessman. One thing what I do is, hey, like we understand key performance indicators. Like you say, hey, what is the KPI in my business? What's the KPI of my output coming out of my Indian office every month, right? I track those things. So whenever I track those things, I realize things get managed somehow because I'm tracking that parameter, that one parameter of output, right? So I said, okay, let me use the same concept I'm using in my business and say, what is my key performance indicator that I want to track for myself every day? Simple. What is that going to be? Even before you start anything to do with weight loss, even before I started with dieting, even before you start exercising more, this is the first thing I think people should start doing. Buy a scale, weighing scale, the good one that you can check your weight with. Every day when I wake up, I brush my teeth, I check my weight in the same clothes or without clothes. It has to be consistently at the same time, about the same gear you're wearing. This is very important. And I used to keep an Excel sheet printed out there with my dates and log it because I started 10, 15 years ago. We didn't have apps to maintain all these things. So I used to write it down, and change started happening right there. Every day, if I just go have to write that weight down, even before I eat the meal in the night, I'm thinking, man, is this going to change that weight thing in the morning? If it is, I'll somehow mentally slow down on my food. I'll somehow just not do that extra portion just because I want to track or get that number down, because now that becomes a performance indicator for my own weight, right? So
Yep.
I said, okay, this is really working. Even if it's the same, I didn't care. It had to be the same or low. It cannot be over. But sometimes it does go over. We go to, events, or, wife cooks up something amazing and it reminds you of your mother's cooking, and you just go at it and it just go up. But consistently what happens is then I started tracking weights in blocks of a week. I log it every day, put it in my Excel sheet. I wrote formulas and saying, now give me an analysis on a week by week basis. So it took out the fluctuations of a daily basis and gave me the fluctuations on a weekly basis. Then I realized that on a week to week, I was at least same or lower. I said, that's a good start. Now, if it was a little over that week, I started tracking activities in the week. I said, what am I doing that's causing this? Can I add something more? Okay, I went and had a big meal for, 2,000 calorie, one meal in, some Mediterranean buffet. You can do that to you without even knowing it. They say it's healthy food. Yeah, it's healthy. It's only up to a point it's healthy. After that, it all builds up anyway, right? So how do I overcome that? Then I used to track that, okay, I lost 2,000 calories. How do I drop 2,000 calories? No, because I have to get that. It all comes down to calorie deficit. So I said, how do I get a calorie deficit that week to bring it down? Not on a daily basis is tough, but how do I get the whole weekly deficit down? 2,000 calories a day, 7 days a week, 14,000. How do I deficit at least another 4,000 calories that week? Then I started increasing my activity, which is walking more. It all started simple, just walking more,
So
working out.
how long did this exercise, this process take for you? I mean, at what point are you now? How many is it, like months before you got down to this conclusion or this model, and then you now started also the activity, added the activity part of it?
From the time you start tracking your weight, we did an analysis. I did this for I did it with a couple of people who signed up for my last weight loss class in the temple, because we had that online in the summer. So we had a 3 month period. That the test was a 3 month period. We would talk with each other every Sunday for about an hour. The initial part was me explaining my system. So why I'm telling you this is I'm telling you that how long it takes to start actually tracking this and start losing it, because you asked the time frame. So within the 3 month period, the whole goal was to understand weight loss, understand my system, which is just a couple of simple things, and see if you can put the weight off. So 100% of the people who participated in that, the goal was to lose 5 pounds at the end of 3 months. That's it, right?
So
Start with a 5 pound weight loss.
my question was, when you started in your journey, um,
Right,
you seem to have been in an exploratory mode, and
right.
you've as you were describing your journey, you've reached a point where you have now understood the whole idea of calorie and calorie deficit, and you've now added activity, which is to, if you added an extra set of calories, you're going to burn it off. So how long did you take to come to that, your own conclusion about that?
Because I built the whole system myself by trial and error. It took me more than like a year, 2 years to figure this out finally.
Hmm.
What worked? Because you go down a path which doesn't work, it takes you 6 months to realize that. Then you try something else. So it took me more than 2 years to start saying, hey, I got this one down and this is working. So I'll
Okay.
start there.
Got it.
And once I got that together, if I explained that to somebody else, it took them 3 months to lose 5 pounds.
Hmm.
So it took me longer to put it together, but it took somebody to follow it less than 3 months to start losing 5 and keeping it off in terms of them learning. So the first one was to basically start tracking your weight.
Yeah.
The second one, every day. This is like consistent. Even if you're going up, you still have to write it down. You just can't skip a few days because you feel bad, or you'll start seeing that as a nightmare. You don't want to see that scale in the morning. But that's how it's going to be. But if you're consistent with it, you got to step on it and just track it down.
Yeah.
That's when you start taking action. And then I started making lifestyle changes. Said, hey, I'm working from home. I just sit all day. I worked out in the gym for half an hour, which I thought was like amazing because I feel sweaty or whatever. But I said, no, I got to add more activity in here. How do I do that? So I started, running. I had never done that before. And I had a knee surgery. So I have all the reason to actually say I can't run and give it up for good. Or say, hey, I probably need to get this checked out and really see. So I went to a good shoe store, I think, where you get your. Started talking to people who run. Simple. Say, what do I do? He said, I think you need to get your custom shoe. Don't buy it in Walmart just because it's $20, but go get fitted on a shoe. I called them back and said, do you know that I've been buying shoes for like $20? This thing costs like $150. You think I need it? He said, how much did your knee surgery cost you? I'm like, okay, don't go there. I'll buy your shoes, right? I'll buy the shoes. So I got them for like, I don't know, it cost me like $150. That was like 6 times, 7 times more than what I was spending on shoes. But hey, I wanted to start changing my lifestyle. So I got them. It made all the difference in the world. I practiced, I ran with my friends, I ran 3 half marathons, and that became a lifestyle.
Now, which year was
So
this?
now
Which year was this when you started running?
these are all in the 2011, 12, and 13. I think I ran them 3 years in a row. I started this journey in 2007, I think, and by 2011, I said my activities have to change. It's not struggling just with the weight loss that's not working. I need to start changing lifestyle. So I started running there, and that really was good. And of course, there's a huge fluctuation in your weight because of the water intake. That's more of a complex, a little more complex stuff to understand. But then I was able to consistently not bother about, hey, the weight coming off or staying the same. By then, I was comfortable with being the same or dropping. It wasn't spiking very much. So from 200 pounds when I started the journey, the first 5 was the most difficult because to get the foods right, to get the exercise right, to keep it going, and to keep it off was the most difficult. So I broke it down into 2.5 pound goals, not even 5 pound goals. I said from 200, I want to be 197.5. That's it. And every time I reached that 2.5, I would just freeze everything. I say, I just want to be there for some time. Forget about losing anymore. Don't go down the path saying I want to lose 40 pounds because some wedding is coming up in 6 months. You could lose it, but you'll come back, is what I think. So I would just stop an activity and enjoy my 2.5 pound weight loss for more than a month, 2 months, just because I can keep it off. Then I would set a date and say, now I'm going for the next piece of it, which is another 2.5 pounds. Well, it got tougher and tougher because the body starts hitting a wall and trying to go back to its weight. So I think the body has a lot to do with it. It tries to go back to where it was all the time. And that's the first activity I started. So it became easier when I started that activity. Then aerobics became a part of my regular workout schedule. So then I go to the gym. I always get an instructor at least once every month so that he can change up my routine. Well, it does cost money. Well, hospitals cost a lot more money. So I figured, I need to get this guy, and he trained me. So I told him, look, I'm running and I'm also doing exercise. How do I balance this whole thing now? So he would put a schedule, and then they say, okay, do more aerobics or whatever I'm doing. So then I started we created a cycling group. Then we started biking. Then I started getting into longer and longer bike rides. So every weekend we were riding, 20, 30 miles as just the funny part is, we like eating donuts. So we said, okay, how can you eat a donut without thinking twice about it? But say we'll do a 40-mile ride At the end of the 20-mile route is a Shipley's donut shop. So we do a 20-mile ride, go to the donut shop, eat a donut, eat a kolache, do the 20-mile ride back. You know what? That is only 30% of what you actually lost that day. So everything is good. Calorie deficit. So I started biking more. It became easier because now the aerobic capacity was increasing drastically. I did the MS 150, which is the bike ride from here to Austin 3 times. At the same time I was running, all in the same year or overlapping it. And I actually trained for the MS 150 for more than 7, 8 times because I started biking with or without the MS 150 now. I would bike every weekend. I didn't care about the MS 150 anymore. Every year, our group, which is more than 20 people, 10, 12 people sign up and we all do it. I would train with them every year because that is a regular part of my training schedule. It wasn't about the MS 150 anymore. So I trained more than 10 years. Even now I'm ready for it. I can just go do it anytime. It's not a big deal.
Right. And MS
So
150 was what, 2014? Was that the first year you started MS
I
150?
did it around that time, about 14, 15.
Mhm.
Before 14 was the last one I think I did. Somewhere around that, I did some of those. And 14 was a critical year for me because that's when I also jumped into, trekking in the mountains. 2014, a friend of mine called and said, "Hey, I think we signed up." Once you get into this activity group,
Yeah.
the group motivates you to do more stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I realized the more you get into activities and the more you get into doing uh, changing your lifestyle, weight loss becomes secondary.
Yeah.
So the weight somehow takes care of itself all the time. And I think I enjoyed doing this because now I'm not thinking of weight, but it's always in check.
Mhm. Mhm. That makes
So when the
sense.
weight loss became secondary, it became easier. That means my lifestyle has changed. So then we trekked in the mountains. I was in the Himalayas. My goal was to reach 20,000 feet. I didn't do it. We reached like, close to 18,556 is the right number I reached. I never got past that because of some issue. Then I had to be flown out of there. And then I did Kilimanjaro in 2016 with me, my son, and two cousin sisters. The interesting part about this whole thing about the weight loss journey is initially when I was doing all these binge dieting and losing 2 pounds, I would become the big expert on weight loss and I would tell my whole wife, kids how to do it. They were mad at me all the time because I was trying to change their foods. My biggest realization was if I go down the weight loss path, I just want to do it for myself.
Mm.
And when the family sees me doing what I'm doing, their habits change slowly over time. That is my biggest realization I got after 3 years. I said, if I just do it myself, it'll all work out. Because I start eating different things, I start eating healthier, I start picking healthier restaurants to go to. Even in the restaurant, I start picking better stuff to eat. So
Yep. Makes
I didn't
sense.
give up going to restaurants. It's a lifestyle, right? So in the restaurant, how do you cut yourself? First thing I gave up is margaritas. It's all sugar loaded. I say I enjoy drinking, but now I enjoy just sipping my tequila. How about that? Yeah, I changed that. I used to drink rum and coke. I say I don't need the coke. I'll just probably eat my rum. Hey, I cut the calories in half right there. So it's so many small steps.
Yeah.
It just drilled down into everything. And the result was not only me losing all the weight and keeping it off, my wife has maintained whatever weight she wants absolutely without any effort. My both my sons struggled with weight loss because I think when we have the habits to gain weight in the house, typically the whole family picks up the same habit.
Mhm.
So my elder son was the first one. He saw me doing all this when he was starting to go to college. He just made up his mind that he's going to work out and do stuff like I do. And I never pushed him down that path, but he really lost it and he became perfect. My younger son came down the path a little later because he was a little 6 years younger. He, of course, wants more sugar, cokes, and whatever. But then the day he realized it, within 2 years, he came down from a level of being really overweight to being so handsome and muscular that people would ask him, "What are you doing?" So
Yeah.
it became a whole family thing.
That-
I did talk about the activity change. I did talk about a little on the foods, but I also wanted to talk about what my biggest concept was, how do I lose weight and keep it off and also maintain my lifestyle, which I don't want to give up so many things.
Yeah.
So then I came up with this concept called sustainable weight loss. What is sustainability? Sustainability comes down to, hey, I love my Indian foods. I grew up with them. I love drinking, which I'm not a binge drinker, but I love my alcohol.
Yeah.
I'm a foodie, but how do I do all this and still maintain it? I love traveling. Well, I can be here and have a trainer for 6 months. No, but I travel to India out of the country every second month. How do I still maintain my weight
Mm.
even though I'm doing all these things that I love to do? Sustainability. Then I created this term called sustainable fat loss. So then I started working on things like I need to be active all the time. So even if I do outdoor things, I need to know if I overeat one day, I need to know how to come back. So now I know if I go out for 3 weeks at a time to India and I come back, it takes me, if I'm out for 3 weeks, it takes me 6 weeks to come back to where I am. I already tabulated that. I've done this like multiple times and it works every time. So now I know, even if I have to put on those 5 pounds, how do I drop those five? How long is it going to take? What exact 10 bullet points to come back to that? So now my weight loss has become sustainable. That means I can put on 5 pounds and drop 5 pounds. And I know the time frame. So now I know how to control it. So that, I just want to share that.
Yep.
Because without sustainability, you go down the path of unsustainable foods, unsustainable activity, and then you have to drop it sometime because your mind and body are not synced
Mhm.
with your craving. And that's when people just go back into their old habits.
Yep.
So if you create a sustainable system, you never go into the binges.
Absolutely, absolutely, that makes sense. So, if I were to kind of summarize your whole health, fitness, and weight loss journey, one is, I think you made a very valid comment about checking weight every day. In fact, I was reading an article, and I can pull it up and share it in the show notes which actually did a research on different diets and their impact to weight loss, and they found that the real correlation between diets and weight loss is very hard to point out, but they did find that people who were looking at weight every day kept their weight off for a longer period of time. So you seem to be resonating with that actual study that was done. So that's a great tip. The other, I think, which you also pointed out, is the one is the food, the other is activity, and how at some point it kind of shifts from just weight loss to actually having a good time in life, doing, having, enjoying life, going outdoors, doing hiking, doing biking and running. And then weight loss kind of becomes a secondary outcome, and you're not kind of spending your life obsessing about every calorie you eat. So that those are great tips. And the other thing that I think, key takeaway is what you just mentioned, is instead of trying to binge weight loss, looking at it, in a periodic fashion. It could be quarterly, it could be monthly, whatever, depends on individuals' likes, but keeping it more phase wise, rather than trying to lose 40 pounds at once and then it comes back later, and then it's not really a healthy change of lifestyle. So all of those are great tips. Now, I want to kind of good time to pivot into, you talked about trekking and hiking. I know that is also a core part of your lifestyle, and you've done some great hikes. Let's spend some time into the Himalayan trek that you did, right? So talk to us about that. What is this, and what was it all about? What were the challenges you had? How did you train for it? Give us a sense of that.
Well, the Himalaya trek was an amazing trek because initially it was like my friend said, "Hey, let's sign up for the Everest Base Camp trek." And I had no clue that people even could trek to the Everest Base Camp. I mean, like amateur people like me. But he said, "I think it's possible." And they made a group of like 7, 8 people, and as always, before we know it, everybody is backing out and doing something and canceling their stuff. And I was so excited. When I sign up for something, I'm going to do it irrespective of the others are going to do it or not. Just to come back to that one point about it's very important when I went down this weight loss journey. Sorry, I keep going back to that. A lot of people say, hey, I signed up with my friends to go to the gym every day. They didn't come today, so I didn't go. They didn't go for a run, so I didn't go. I said, you know what? Your weight loss journey is yours, and it has to revolve around you. It's got nothing to do with other people showing up, nothing to do with other people coming, nothing to do with other people not being a part of your journey. It's a solo journey, and you have to go on that path. If you committed to working out 5 times a week, your friends show up or not, you got to be there. If you committed to running 5 times a week, you got to go it, even if your friends come or not there. So you can't blame it on people. So when I signed up for this trek, I was in. I didn't really care if the rest are coming or not. You know what? We had a drop off of 100%. People come up with these stories and say, we'll go next year. You know what I said? I am done. When I said yes, I'm going. So who's coming with me? They said, oh, how can you go alone? I said, well, okay, check it out how I'm going to do this. You know what happened? I stood my ground so solid in 2014 that I'm going, that four of them turned around and said, we are coming with you. So five of us ended up going on that trek in 2014. And we went to the whole training course. I was already cycling and biking and skiing and scuba diving. So aerobic capacity was good. I thought I was perfect. We went into that, and it was an amazing 12-day trek, every day escalating in elevation, sleeping and trekking. It was more of a very spiritual journey in the whole process. On the weight side of it, I was excited because, man, I'm putting so much into this thing. I'm really going to lose a lot of weight. But I forgot about the whole weight loss part of it. The place was so beautiful. It was such a spiritual journey. The energy that I thought was there in the Himalayas completely transformed me
So
after
did
that
you
trek.
take the? There are two places, right? Either Nepal or Tibet. Did you? Which one did you?
Actually, I didn't even do the Everest base camp. I asked them what's the height of the Everest base camp. They said 17,600. I said, no, that's too low for me. I need to break 20,000. They said, this is your first trek. I said, who cares? Let me go for the 20,000, because somewhere I read in a long book that that's the number to break without oxygen support. So I went down from the Nepal side of it. We're trying to get to a peak called the Island Peak. I never got to the peak because I think I got pulmonary edema or something like that. I was not able to breathe at 8,600. My heart rate was at 170, 175 and not coming down, even on a resting state. So that my friend and person who organized my trip for me, she said, I think we need to get you out of this mountain right now. I said, well, how do we do that? They called for the chopper. The chopper can land only at a certain elevation. So, and I had to trek half a mile out before the chopper takes off. Otherwise, I'll not be on the chopper because they have a short window. I can't walk because my heart rate is up. So somebody actually lifted me, the two Sherpas, and they ran with me to get me out of there.
Wow.
Everybody remembers that part of it more than me doing 12 days of trekking in the mountains. I remember 12 days of trekking. I don't remember they got me back in 20 minutes to the hospital, but I remember that. So taking that cue, we built a better system of how do we do the next trek more successfully. Spiritually, what worked for me that time was I put my foot down and said, I am going in the April of 2014.
Yeah.
April of 2015 was the earthquake in Nepal. So if they actually moved it by year, we would have been in the earthquake. So I think spiritually, I got that if you decide something, just get it done now, because I think the universe is conspiring for you to get it done now. Keep pushing it, it goes off time. The next time around, we created a group of 9 people, and eight of them came from the Woodlands, where I live in here in Houston. And out of that 8 people, four are from my family, with me and my son. He got excited about that. He said, I'm coming. He was 21. My cousin sisters, who were in their 30s then, said they're coming. So we are like, out of 8 people, the 50% of them are family. And I'm like, okay, last time I got flown out by a chopper, this time I'm responsible for the whole team. But we put them in a training schedule. We trained in such a way that in Kilimanjaro, we had 100% success rate. All 9 people summited. That is better than any average on the mountains. In the mountains, when you trek, you basically have a 50% success rate. So based on a lifestyle change and the diet and the exercise and the schedule we followed, we had a 100% success rate. So that was the learning curve. I said, okay, everything has a system. You got to follow the system. The first time I made a mistake, a friend of mine said, hey, we have an extra day in the Himalayas. We should just take the rest. You know, I'm like, no, egoistic. We don't need the rest. We can do it. Well, we failed. So we learned from that. Listen to the experts, the way they say it, because the system, they've been there and done that. That was my big mountain climbing trekking experience. Last in 2018 and 19, I was supposed to be climbing Mount Elbrus in Russia with a friend who did the both of the treks with me, and unfortunately that didn't happen. In 2020, we were supposed to be in Switzerland climbing, trekking up Mount Matterhorn. That didn't happen thanks to COVID. So this year in May, we are going with a group of friends to the Everest Base Camp,
Okay.
and I already started training for that.
Awesome. Awesome. Terrific. Hey, that was a great conversation. I think I definitely learned a lot from your journey. I'm sure folks who are listening to this will take away quite a lot of the learning that you bring to the table from your system that you've created. We're kind of coming to end of our conversation, but before we wrap up, I have a rapid fire round. It's kind of some fun questions that I like to ask my guests. So, let's jump into that.
Before we do that, can you give me 2 minutes just to summarize the
Yes.
weight loss
Yeah.
points I just mentioned so
Oh,
that people
yes.
get that than searching through the whole video?
Yeah. Yeah.
The first thing I always tell people is weigh yourself every day. The most important thing you can do. Even before you start planning to start checking your diet, just weigh yourself for a week or 2 weeks and see what is happening. And then adjust your foods, what you're eating every day, to see how you can keep that constant or get it lower with the same stuff you're eating without changing anything. Then, once you understand that, go down to, hey, now what foods can I give up one at a time, not 10 foods at a time, because you have to make it sustainable. I can't give up the foods I love, idli, dosa, vada, sambar, so many of them, right? Biryani, all of them at once. I get it. Which one do I give up? So I gave up the first thing I started with hidden sugars. I went into Googling what are hidden sugars, what is calorie dense food. Then I came up with, hey, if I have one small piece of this gulab jam, this is so many calories. And I say, hey, I used to eat 8 of them, now I eat one of them. That's a huge difference. I'll give up eating 8 all the time. I'll eat 1 or 2. That's a huge, that's a percentage difference of you made it better by 80%. If I give up one food every day, then I got down to how do I control one meal every day? We eat 3 meals a day. If I control one clean meal a day, I'm already corrected 30% of my eating habits. That's huge. People don't get it. Then keeping that one meal constant, how do I get to the other 60%? Then I said I'll control one more meal perfectly. That means I have 2 clean meals, one meal and eat anything I want. So I've already corrected 60% of my eating habits just by correcting 2 meals, right? So go at it at a small pace. If I mess up all 3 meals just because we have guests, it's okay. Next 3 days, start again. You never lose. You always can start again. People tend to forget that. Then I gave up my first biggest things I gave up are hidden sugars, fried foods. Even now, fried food is just a small piece. I cannot do fried food. I've gotten so not used to fried foods that if I put a small, if I eat half a vada, I can feel the oil drench my whole body. I thought I tell people, I can feel it right to my toes. My mother laughs at me, but that's how I feel. I can just feel the oil dripping down my throat because I've taken those foods out of my system for so long.
Yeah.
So check your weight every day, cut the hidden sugars, then get to the direct sugars. Direct sugars are easier to spot, but get to the hidden one. Bread has sugar if you don't know it. Simple thing. Then give up fried foods. If I just did these 3 things, then starting to activities, then go into more food. And we tested this in a small group that we had in the temple. in the HCW group that I conducted for 3 months, and 100% of the people lost 5 pounds. So it was tested.
Yep,
Anyway,
terrific.
we can do the rapid fire round now because at least we summarize the whole thing into a small bag.
Yeah, no, those are very valuable tips. All right, yeah, let's jump into the rapid fire and see how you fare in that. So, first question: what's your favorite guilty pleasure in food?
Gulab jamun.
Okay, okay. In terms of your recovery food, protein shake or a protein bar?
Recovery foods. I'll probably go for a protein shake.
Okay. Do you like to exercise in group or do you like to exercise in solo?
Solo.
What's your favorite
Solo
guilty?
is at the gym. Groups as in a setting like biking or other things. Even that I do solo if nobody shows up.
But what's your favorite? You have to pick one. What do you prefer?
I have to pick one. Solo because nobody can tell me when to stop. That way I get my numbers done.
Yeah, you get it done, right? What's your favorite guilty pleasure beverage?
A completely loaded, just the way it looks, with salt margarita, the big glass.
Okay. And I know you're also a single malt, connoisseur, right? So let's ask you, what's your favorite single malt?
Oh, I have so many of them. But right now, my favorite single malt is the PT malt called Kaolila or a Talisker.
Okay, I think the first one I've had it when we met. That was the one.
Yeah.
That was very nice. Yes. All right. What's your favorite time for your workout?
Morning.
Good morning person. Okay. All right. Good. I think those were some fun responses we got from you. Hey Anil, I think again this was a wonderful conversation. Your journey is so experience rich. While there's a system, it's backed by a lot of your own personal experience and your own experiments, and it really makes sense for a lot of people who are working, have a regular life, to take things from what you've done because it's very balanced. It's not an extreme form of doing anything that people who have a regular life would like to adopt. Thank you so much. I'll let you go now. Have a wonderful weekend, and we shall be in touch.
Perfect, Santosh. Thanks so much. And I'm looking forward to having some biryani now because today is my cheat day.
All right. Have a good one.
Take care. Fantastic.
Bye.
Bye.